Alright. So, welcome to the War Council. I'm Dan.
I'm Pipsqueak.
And I'm Veri.
Here we're going to talk about Age of Sigmar. Talk about our expectations, what we wanted from it, and what we hated about it, because there's a lot of that. Not biased at all, I swear.
Absolutely not.
Of course not.
Nerd rage will happen. Nerd rage will happen.
Alright, so we kind of figured we'd probably get started just by giving everybody a little bit of history of what we know from Warhammer, what our experience has been with it, just to kind of get the ball rolling, letting you guys know who we are. So I figured we'd let our good war host commander...
We'll start here, yeah. I've never played Fantasy before. Until I played Age of Sigmar, and... Well, the first game was interesting. I just destroyed my opponent by not knowing balance. We'll get into that later. Maybe?
So I played Warhammer Fantasy for a long time. I started with a Vampire Counts army about 13. Played through every edition since. It's always been my preference of Warhammer. So I've done Vampire Counts, High Elves, very briefly, Dwarfs, as my stature suggests, and currently play Skaven. So I've played for a long time and had a lot of expectations, both good and bad, coming into Age of Sigmar.
He now goes, hiss, hiss, skitter, skitter.
Hiss, hiss, skitter, skitter is the only appropriate way to move. Barry?
Yeah, with Warhammer Fantasy, never had really any experience from it. Always saw it from a distance, never could find a crowd to play with, which I always thought was the problem of the game. It looked fascinating, watched a wargaming match of it. It seemed interesting, I liked the rank and file, but I could see why they went and got Age of Sigmar in there. I mean, frankly, how many people played Fantasy in the region where you are, unless you're over in the UK?
Yeah, well, and that was, of course, the big problem with Fantasy, right? Is, you could just, we all play 40k, and you can step into a shop anywhere and pick up a game of 40k on a weekend, not a problem.
Most of the time, yeah.
I mean, it's basically
Easier.
like hunting a unicorn to find somebody to play Fantasy with in the last couple of years. It's been insane.
Majestic unicorn.
A limping, dying, pathetic unicorn slowly aging and collapsing.
Holy nay.
No!
Well, they usually went off to different games, too. If I can't find anyone, let's go.
Right, that's even War Machine, Hordes.
War Machine.
Yep.
Even going into 40k, because, people are actually playing that.
At least I can play Space Elves.
Space elves, space dark elves, space orcs, which are just orcs.
In space.
Yeah.
Space.
That brings what were our expectations when we looked at Age of Sigmar? I was expecting, I got what I expected with a skirmish game with not rank and file, being able to spread out a little bit, not be all clumped together. The rules are really light. Get through. It's 4 pages. 4 pages of rules.
Right, well, when we first saw that, we just talked about games like War Machine and Horde, and you can see the influence there looking at something like Age of Sigmar. Just because, again, like you said, more spread out, less formation-based, things like that. My expectation pretty early on, just reading kind of thoughts of people that are patiently waiting online to see what was going to happen to my beloved Fantasy, was that they were completely going to break away from the old rule system because they just didn't particularly care about wooing players who have done Fantasy forever to continue on with the game because it was just such a dying breed. So I remember my expectation early on was that this was going to be a totally different beast, though I expected it to look a lot different than it is.
And frankly, when I was looking at it, I was taking into account last year's release of the End Time models. Because I don't know if you guys have seen too many details of those, but all of a sudden, Games Workshop just decided to kick it up a notch with their model detail on what they were doing and releasing. Botkin, the Vermin Lord, Nagash. Those models were gorgeous. Yes, they were expensive, but you could actually justify some of those prices. And Age of Sigmar, for me, when I heard of it, when I looked at those free War Scrolls that they released, and I realized, I can take Warriors of Chaos with Demons, with Skaven, with insert here, and all of a sudden, all of these interesting, fascinating models could be. I'm more of a painter and a modeler, just as a heads up. The playing of itself, not really my cup of tea. I'll do it. I'm a little more prone to it. But from a painter's perspective, have you seen those Sigmarines?
They're really... No kidding. The corn ones, I'm blanking on their name already.
The Gore-Tide.
The Gore-Tide. Oh.
Because you have to say it like that. It can't be. It's not the gore tide. It's the gore tide.
Yes, the
The
gore
God
tide.
tide.
No. We saved that voice for the Nurgle people. So
Yeah, so the Skaven.
I guess they are kind of leaning more that way. But I just, and that was actually, that is a good point, because I remember when I saw the models for the end times, that sort of was what started, especially towards the end, you know, when they're talking about how there's going to be this whole total reboot, it kind of lends itself away from a totally different system, right? Because you've got these beautiful models that they've obviously spent a great deal of money and time, you know, modeling and getting to do this, play this particular way, and then the rules, they basically took the old, like, difficult, thick rules and then decided to add a whole another set of really difficult, thick, dense rules. And then, so it was very weird to see that go from something so involved to something very, very, very basic.
I mean, as a 40k player, when I looked at fantasy, it felt dense and weighed down to me. Watching the battle reports, it felt dense and weighed down to me. I mean, I've never played it, so that's just a small opinion. Age of Sigmar is like, well, light and fluffy. Like, it's quick. I mean, our first games we played were like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And
If that.
I mean, an hour for a game we had never touched. We played like, well, we looked at it. That's about it. We didn't play it until one day. An hour was not that bad. When problem being lasted an hour, and we got to turn 3, and you already knew who the was. And
yes, and that's
this is not Magic the Gathering where you can get a
the expectation is that you're going to be in for some time with doing something like that. And yeah, I mean that was definitely bizarre, and that's something we're definitely going to be discussing. Is some of the things that came along with it that were good and that were bad. As they
better time to stop. Start right now.
Yeah, it's really true, because there were things. I feel like we can all agree that there were things that we really did not like Age of Sigmar, but also things that, you know, actually turned out better than expected. I mean, what kinds of things do you think turned out that you weren't so keen on?
Well, I can say from watching the playing one of the games and watching. For me personally, I have Chaos Demons, and the reason I did that was a 40k army and a fantasy army to demon players.
Way of doing it.
But I have to say, when it was the first game that our group did is for Age of Sigmar, and, well, for all of you who have looked at the rules, and this was probably my biggest irritation, there's no points. There's no balance.
Oh, yeah.
They do recommend and say...
Right now.
They do say on there, oh, if your opponent has more than a third of the models that you do, you get a sudden death. You get to choose from the sudden death table as a victory condition. And that's fun and all, but it led to the problems that I saw in the first game.
Well, actually, I think a really good way to talk about it is to talk about the game that you played against High Elves, right? Because, I mean, I think actually your opponent outnumbered you.
No, I outnumbered him.
But barely. It was only by a couple of
Like
models.
7 models.
Yeah, 7 models.
models.
It was nothing. But maybe it might be good to talk about that game.
I mean, it was like I had Chosen on my side. I had like 2 squads of 10 Chosen.
That's to say, you didn't have Chosen. You had a lot of Chosen.
I had 20 models of Chosen, and I've never played it. I mean, I look at Chosen like, badass. Why not? My opponent played fantasy. Like, what? Wait, maybe? Then it's like, no, never mind. Let's try it. They're Chosen versus, like, I can't remember. Elf archers.
Yeah, so he had a unit of archers, he had a unit of Lothern Sea Guard, Swordmasters of Hoth, about 10 Silver Helms, 5 Dragon Princes, and Imric on his dragon, and a Bolt Thrower. So, by all old fantasy standards, a relatively balanced High Elf army.
Looked like it. I mean, I had Chosen, a Hell Cannon.
That Hell Cannon.
Oh, the Hell Cannon.
Twice, I think
the cannon that runs up and says hello.
Hello.
You're gonna die.
I'm going to eat your face, or I'm going to shoot you. I don't know which, but one of those is going to happen. I had Twiceborn. One of the big dudes. I can't remember right now.
It was one of the Magath Lords, wasn't it?
The Magath Lord, but I think it was Twiceborn.
You had Blowout Roguespan.
A Roguespan, yes. But he's a pretty powerful guy. And then I had a Demon Prince of Zeech. No, I had an unaligned Demon Prince, which is nasty upon itself, because it regenerates wounds. So I'm like, well, this seems balanced to me, and looks badass. Not balanced.
Not at all.
No.
Not
That's
even.
the thing. It's like, looking at the rules, there are no balancing factors to this.
None
at all.
whatsoever. And it points to the biggest problem with Age of Sigmar, which we've all touched on at this point, which is that if you are unfamiliar with the game, which is the people that they are trying to attract, you're just going to kind of pick and choose whatever seems neat to you. So if you're a person like me, who likes big units of scurrying little clan rats, you're going to get, if the assumption is that my clan rat is worth exactly as much, since it's just by model count, my clan rat is worth as much as your unaligned demon prince.
Or just
There's going to be some balance issues.
Well, let's not go with the people who we, even though not being a fantasy player, who we know are going to be units like Clan Rat, or my Marauders versus Clan Rat. Something like that. I mean, you can't really judge it based on there.
Well, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, though, is at least with the rules as written, as it stands, by that, we should have a perfectly equal game if we both have 50 models. It doesn't matter if you have 50 Chaos Knights and I have 50 Skaven Slaves. That is an equal game as rules as written, which is, I think we can all agree is the biggest problem with Age of Sigmar as it stands right now.
Yes, it is.
It is.
And this is going with the rules that we have from Games Workshop, not the rules come up with. Because during the last week, really good rules, actually.
Absolutely.
One based on attacks plus wounds times bravery was one.
Thank you, Mini Wargaming.
Yep, Mini Wargaming. There's one you posted one up in our group.
That
it was
sheet was really.
It was. There's a game store in Louisville that the guy posted on Daka Daka, where he talked about the rule. No, it was on Bell of Lost Souls.
Yes,
it was on Bell of Lost Souls, and he posted a rule set that he was doing. That made a lot of sense. It certainly was not perfect, but I mean, it covered a lot of the balance issues and limiting how many heroes you could take, or the number of monsters with multiple wounds, things along those lines. And it's just at first blush, we haven't had a chance to play test it yet. Next time, it seemed to balance things out a little bit more by limiting the possibility of somebody taking 20 Bloodthirsters versus my 20 Stormvermin.
Exactly. I mean, W needs to do some balancing. There's a book that came out, or going to come out, so pre-order right now. It might have some things in there for campaigns. It will show a good way. The problem is, old players are like, this will be balanced. They'll look at it and go, hey, that's a balanced list. I don't care if you outnumber me like 40 clan rats to my 10 high elves. It's balance to them. The new player will go, 20 clan rats? I'm bringing 20 Chaos Knights.
Yeah, exactly, because by the rules as written, if you're looking through it, I mean, the model looks prettier, but knowing nothing about how the rules operate with them, I'm gonna take my 20 Chaos Knights, and that is the end of those clan rats. We know that is clan rat goulash under the hooves.
Now, let's be honest, though. At least Games Workshop did an attempt to show that this model has this many wounds, this model has this bravery. So you would hope that some D-bag would look and see that the Chaos Knights have so much more improved stats over the Skaven that they would hopefully not be completely like, oh, well, the rule says I can do that.
Exactly.
And that's where the problem comes in. If you're going to go just meet some random schmo at a game store, and what's to stop them from doing that?
Exactly. Well, and that's my thing. And the big attraction for 40k for me, for Warhammer 40k, is the fact that because however screwy, and we could talk hours about how screwy the point system is in 40k, however screwy it is, for the most part, I can go into a random shop. If I were to leave and go to another city today and go into a game store that offered 40k on a weekend, I could probably find a game with somebody, and I could play a competitive game with my Tau. I could get around to it. In Age of Sigmar, again, if the goal here is to bring in lots of new players, it's going to be a worry if they come into a game store and somebody who knows how to exploit these rules goes, haha, I'm going to, troll you with all this stuff. Look, no, it's a perfectly legal army. And they'll go, why would I want to play this game?
I mean, the one thing they put in there is a limit of the model count. I mean, you have to have the model. I mean, that's one thing. So, for instance of summoning.
Yeah.
This is it. Summoning right there.
Oh, summoning.
Summoning is a problem in 40k also.
I can tell you from experience, because that's where my game was the problem that we found out. Because, of course, demon players, you know this from playing, we used to be really weak back in the day, but when all of a sudden our summoning got kind of OP, and I can come from the 40k experience of it. Yeah, you can get a lot of the basic guys, Bloodletters, Pink Horrors, Plague Bearers, and then if you really did the effort and were willing to risk the wrath and your psychic getting hurt on the warp table, you could try to do possessions and get the higher up units. Age of Sigmar, though, no. They had it to where, if you haven't read the War Scroll for it, if you have the unit on the board, let's say, for example, you are Tzeentch, and you have a Lord of Change. By having the Lord of Change on the board, all of your characters that have the tagline of Chaos and Wizard on them now have the ability to summon a Lord of Change. Now, albeit, it's not the easiest thing. You need a 9 on a 2d6. But if you've read the War Scrolls, you know that a Lord of Change gives all the wizards within 18 inches a +1. A Lord of Change gets to take his lowest dice on the 2d6 and match his highest. And all of a sudden, if you have the models, you just got another Lord of Change.
Yeah, right. So really all you need to do is roll, what, I guess, so with a +1, you'd only really need to roll a 4.
Yes.
1 4 on 2d6 with a
that's all you need.
Yeah, so it's just...
And there's no downside to casting. You have to be within 18 inches.
They can't move.
They can't move, but I mean, like, I'm talking about casting in general.
But don't they specifically say, when you summon them, they can't move in the movement phase, is the way the rule is.
Yeah.
Which means they can charge.
Yep.
They can.
You have to be more than 9 inches away from a unit, but they can charge. Which is a long charge, but you can charge.
What's broken about them is that when you get to the next turn's hero phase, they can summon.
Yeah.
There's no warp charges like in 40k where you have a limited amount and you have to designate what you're doing. No, each of those wizards usually can cast either 1 spell a turn, 2 spells a turn, or if you're insane like Nagash, 8 spells a turn.
Well, and also a mechanic in fantasy used to be that there was no proximity factor. Any wizard anywhere on the board, you just had basically a general pool, as I'm sure some of you know, where you could dispel out of. Whereas now you have to be within 18 inches of the spell being cast. So if you have, your wizard plunking along over here with your unit or whatever, and their wizard's over there, and they just start dropping, greater demons over there.
What do you do?
Tough.
Yeah.
And that's another. There again. We talk about the big points balancing issue. There are some other balancing issues as well.
Definitely.
But I mean, to put a positive spin on this is also the early days. These are the days where we have rules where you put a dice in one hand and you hold them out, and that's one rule mechanic, or where a Skaven player could cheat on a Screaming Bell and win the game outright. I mean, a lot of these rules are just meant to tide you over until they start releasing
they're gonna
full-on rules for the new things they're going to be releasing. It's just you can see this being an impediment if they continue with some of the core mechanics they're using.
No, I mean, we're going to hopefully see some point either a point system or maybe a model point system is what we need. We need a point system of some sort, or a way of calculating it. I mean, don't bring too much math into this, but it's going to have to happen. It's a tabletop game. Math happens.
For all of its problems, there's a reason why the point system is. I actually liked the mini wargaming system. It's wounds plus attacks times bravery. There's some multipliers if you're a monster or war machine.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to turn off new players. Okay, I'm going to calculate this for every single unit. Why would I do that when I could just do that once and then assign that an arbitrary point cost for everything that meets that criteria, right? I mean, it simplifies it. It takes out a middle process.
It would. I mean, it's going to be that's just a stopgap. We need it. There's a house rule that you're only going to see in one location. Not everyone's going to agree on it, though. It's not a rule from the company.
Exactly.
And the problem without having an arbitrator like GW making the rules, because that mini wargaming idea, that's all nice and dandy, but when you have units that are just big and beefy and they have those points values compared to someone who has all the spells and all these tricks and abilities but has less, and so look, that amazing special unit was only half
right.
Yeah.
And that's where you need someone like an arbitrator to go ahead and be like, here's the value, and it may be convoluted, but you can accept it. You have less infighting.
Right. Yeah. The 40k point system is certainly not perfect, but it gets you close. It gets you pretty close.
It's something you all can agree on.
Most.
I mean, you can agree on because you go to a tournament, you go, okay, we're playing a 1,500 point game.
Unless you're Necrons, then you only get to take 1,000 points.
Demons only need 500. They'll make it up later. It's like 500.
Shooting up like weeds. Little Nurgle weeds.
Nurgle weeds. Grandpappy Nurgle says hi to this weed whacker.
Wait, why would he whack his own weeds? That sounds dirty.
Well, he is a dirty god.
He's gonna go whack some weeds.
love of Nurgle to everyone.
This has gone to a dark place.
Focus up until that particular moment. You're doing great.
There's gonna be those moments, though.
We're having a moment with our producer. So we spent a lot of time talking about the issues that we have with Age of Sigmar. However, I really enjoyed my game.
Oh,
Much more than I thought I was going to, and there were things that worked better than I thought they were going to.
Same. I mean, game. I love the quickness of the game. How fast you can start a game up. Really. I mean, you have to agree on the rules, and then it's just simple. It's like a simple game, and each it's just the balance. The balance is the problem.
The balance is a problem.
It is, but I still have to. I mean, I'm going to harp on it again. I like that I can take all these neat toys from a different army and put it into there. Because if you agree on the house rule, I mean, wouldn't it be amazing? Because you're a Skaven player that now gets to team up with Nurgle.
That's not even a house rule. We're all forces of chaos. I can team up with beastmen. I can team up with warriors. I can team up with demons. Apparently, just looking at GW's website, I can team up with one specific unit from Dark Elves. So, there's that.
Oh, really?
Harpies. I can take Harpies. They are included in the forces of chaos on GW's website.
Interesting. That's weird.
It is very interesting.
And for people who enjoy the lore or don't want to be limited to just one type of models when playing together, it makes for a much more exciting experience and a much more diverse chance. Because I will admit, one of the biggest problems I had with 40k was, unless you were facing someone who was relatively new, if someone came up to you and said, "I'm playing Tau," or even worse, "I'm playing Necrons," you could almost all the time, within maybe a relative degree, knew what they were playing.
Yeah.
If it was for fun, no one cared, then it's up the window. But it's competitive, you kind of knew what they were going to do.
With the combining forces of order, chaos, destruction, and death, I see a lot of fun narrative.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and just the fun in game. I love the idea of my Hell Pit Abomination gaily holding hands with happy gaily. Don't be rude. Holding hands with a great unclean one, skipping through enemies, squishing them underneath them.
That's
Like
the thing, angry gaily skipping like angry skips coming online.
Or they even have in the Demon War Scrolls, they actually already have some basic formations in them.
yeah, they do
yeah.
for Skaven as well. I took one in my game.
Yep, and they actually will reward players for trying to have a narrative consistency.
Mm-hmm.
One of the favorite ones I saw in there was the Nurgle ones. Was if you take some Plague Bearers, some Plague Drones, I also like that they let you have this or this or this for some options. And they would actually give you some fluff narrative style abilities, nothing too OP, that would relate to your army. I know the Nurgle one specifically, if anything's within an inch of it in combat, they, have a good chance. On a D6, a 6 gives a mortal wound. Just little narrative things like that to promote some narrative.
And even on the narrative thing, the other thing they did really well narratively is if the game is really, really short, as we've noted. I mean, it took us, brand new to the rules, an hour at most to play a full game. But they design it specifically, and they say, look, play 3 or 4 games in a night, and you will carry over bonuses and penalties. It's in like the first page or 2 of the rules, where you can, where it's supposed to be fine. You want to play longer than just 45 minutes? Play 3 or 4 games in a row.
Triumphs.
The Triumph table, that's right.
Triumph table.
Which is another thing they did narratively really well.
It's really, I love the narrative options here. It's going to be the most fun of doing some narrative campaigns with friends. Again, you're going to be balancing it, but if you're working with a friend, it'll be easier than working. For casual games versus pickup games at the store for right now.
Well, and what I think is especially funny is you look at people who've played fantasy, like me, in the last 10 or 12 years, and you're getting the people who are the most upset about this sort of thing. But what I've seen coming out just cruising online is you're getting people who played 1st and 2nd edition fantasy who are going, wait a second, we're going to care about narrative again? That's why I got into this game. Like, that's why I enjoyed it. I don't just want to play some faceless army. I'm going to name my heroes, and I'm going to write a story for why they're doing what they're doing. And to me, that is very appealing. I'm the guy who writes backstories for my WoW characters. Yes, I'm that one.
He is that one.
And
it's 20-page epics going on right now.
Yeah, it's not quite that. It's like 16.
Well, and also, I mean, don't forget the End Times released all those books for the units, and we have all that fluff and lore coming in. 40K has like the Horus Heresy novels. All of a sudden, in the Age of Sigmar, those are actually going to matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can actually, be like, yes, I'm Sigmar. I'm going to drive off those Khorne hordes, and
Right, the things that you do actually matter in a narrative sense.
And because right now they close one book, they're opening a new book for every story. I don't know. They've written themselves to the wall. We're like, well, we need to end this now and start over. I'm hoping that doesn't happen to 40K. I want some story going on there. Stuck for a while now.
Right. It'd be nice if they did something like that. A conversation definitely for another day when we discuss some 40K. I feel like I had 3 things that I was really worried about when I started doing Age of Sigmar. One of them was balance, which I was rightfully worried about. It's going to be a concern when you play a game with your friend that you really want to play fantasy with you, don't let them take 20 chosen.
Or let them and try hard.
Or let them and outnumber them a lot. The other 2, however, turned out to be a little bit better than I was thinking. We talked a little bit about Big's time narrative, but even in the rules, a lot of people were just like, now this is all going to be flavorless crap. Not really. I had a rattling gun blow up on me. I managed to cast the dreaded 13th spell, which I've never managed to do with my Skaven. It still felt like a Skaven army. My units were 3 times the size of my opponents and died in droves, like they're supposed to. That's what you play Skaven for. So that was less of a worry than I thought it was going to be. And then the other one I always heard was, well, if they switch to circle bases, there's going to be no tactics anymore. Not really true. It's just... So yes, flank charges don't matter anymore. Rear charges don't matter anymore. There's no formation sense in that. And again, it may be because I'm playing an army that kind of would have... I mean, I just imagine a scrambling horde anyway. But there are tactics. Because of how the combat phase is set up, where you pick a unit and they attack, and then your opponent picks a unit and they attack back. It may not even be the one in that same combat you were in. Order starts mattering. Where you put your units. Things move so fast now. I took a Vermin King in my game, and he rushed forward because, man, did I want to see him lop off Imric's head. It didn't work out that way. But he ended up sitting right up in the middle of the table with nobody around him because I wasn't expecting. I had to pay attention to where I was and what my units were doing. There are tactics. They're just different. So yeah, don't be worried about where you're wheeling and how your facing is, but you're going to have to pay attention to what you're shooting, where you are, how far your units have moved out, what order they're attacking in. These things matter.
Are they near the commander?
Are they near the commander? Because there's a lot of inspirational bonuses beyond... I mean, in fantasy, a lot of it was literally just like you get the bonus to leadership. Great. Yay. Now it's more complicated than that, which is nice.
Oh yeah, the command traits they get.
Yeah.
We didn't talk. I mean, there's the one, the inspiring one. I think it was like plus bravery.
Yeah.
It was like the basic one.
Within 12 inches.
Within 12 inches, everyone they don't get their own. Some people have their own flavorful ones. Your Vermin one had.
Oh, my Vermin one. Yeah. So your Vermin King, if you're a Skaven player, take one. So theirs is phenomenal. It's anything within 13 inches. So you get a shrink because a lot of times these things are 18 inches. You get a shrink down to 13 inches, but basically all ones. Just any ones that you roll, you get to re-roll if you're within 13 inches. So I had to kind of clump things up around him in the end. I mean, I stuck him way out in the beginning. Thankfully, he lasted long enough till he got some support from my clan rats. But yeah, I mean, it was neat and it was flavorful and it was more than just hooray, I get to use his bravery.
Yeah,
Because even have, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So.
And I can tell you from experience, not all the named heroes have command abilities. Some of them just have a lot of really fun, unique traits.
Yes.
To all you Zinch players out there, I took, in my match, I had a Kairos Fate Weaver, a Lord of Change, 2 units of Pink Horrors, and some Plague Bears. Again, kind of unbalanced considering he had only just a little bit of Orcs, but my point being is the Lord of Change had a leadership ability, Kairos did not, and... Yeah. The Lord of Change ability was crazy for just being a leadership ability. All Zinch wizards within 18 inches got a +1 to their spellcasting roll.
Right. Yeah. But again, just speaking of flavor, I mean, that's so very Zinchy. Everybody is going to be able to, everybody's going to be able to cast a little bit better. But yeah, and that was the thing, but again, on the flip side of that, like Imric, the big bad high elf hero who decided to go toe-to-toe with my Vermin King, didn't decide so much as but he only had the Inspiring Presence, as far as I know. I didn't actually take a look at his War Scroll, but if he did have a different one, my opponent didn't use it. But his attacks were incredible. Like, he could fly, he could attack better, so he traded off having a cool command ability for being just an absolute monstrosity in close combat.
I was just thinking about this funny rules in there. Mustache roll.
Oh, the mustache roll.
I can't remember the guy's name. I was trying to find real quick while you guys were talking. It's like rerolls ones if you have more fantastic mustache. There's
If
a
you have
dwarf.
a Sir Birdie of mustaches.
There's a variety of mustaches, and then there's a dwarf. If you have the most luscious beard, you reroll ones. I think I don't remember which one it was, so I'm probably getting that wrong.
My favorite one for my Skaven. Sorry, I'm a little Skaven centric because I love. But yeah, my little
Hence
Skaven-
his username.
Yes, it's Pipsqueak. But it's basically you roll the Screaming Bell. You roll 2d6 and you get a cool effect. And if you roll, and it's an unmodifiable roll. It's just 2d6. So if you roll a 13, you automatically win.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just silly little things like that that honestly are actually kind of fun because they're never game breaking or anything awful. But
No,
Or the Zinch one was ridiculous for Kairos Fate Weaver. You could get a whomping +2 to your spells, including the +1, if you could, without looking at the spell book, say any spell backwards. And that included unbinding your opponent's spell. If you could, on the spot, spell it backwards, you would get the +2. And that's the very chaotic Zinch kind of
and
moment.
that's a hard one to do.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, there's Arcane Bolt if you can spell that. I mean, that one's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean that one, but like some of the name spells.
Tall big car.
now
Now
I'm literally just imagining a table. There's a game on. You decide you want to do that, and now there's a police officer because it sounds like they say the alphabet backwards. You're going Arcane Bolt T L. How much have you had to drink tonight, son? You can't even spell Arcane Bolt backwards. I'm gonna need to take you in.
Sigmarines are coming to get you. Well, you are a Zinch player, and I'm a Chaos player, Undead player. We're no lawful.
Yeah, we have 4 people in our group, possibly 5 if the producer decides she wants to get in.
Yeah.
How am I okay, first of all, how am I the producer? I'm just
The camera operator.
Camera
Okay,
operation.
see.
Yeah, because what else would we call you?
She's the only professional
Director.
one of the lot of us.
Director. There we
I'm
go.
the director.
The director
Yep, there you go.
who's managing all of this. If she decides that she wants to play her high elves or elves, ding 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 ding, then we would have 2 order players and 3 chaos players in our group.
Maybe. I mean, she might convert to Chaos anyway.
It's definitely possible.
Chaos is very
Huh?
Start-
All right, sorry
It's
for a different day.
different.
We'll minimize the inside jokes here.
Yeah.
But
Fun rules.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun in this game, but it's not a game I would go to a shop and play with somebody random.
not right now, which I think is probably a good time to kind of lean into our kind of last little bit here of what we see happening and where we're kind of at and how we feel about it. So what do you think, Dan? Like, where do you think this is going to go?
I think it could go one way. I think they're going to go casual with this, right? Basic rules are completely casual. Casually, I don't know many people who play tournaments. Do you play tournaments?
I would if I could. If I had.
Okay.
I like tournaments. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
never
I'm one
mind.
of
He's
those
the
people.
only one here.
I know I feel so ashamed, but I'm not that guy who's a total bitch who does like terrible mean lists. But I do like. I'm not a competitive person, except yes, I know you're gonna tell me not to swear.
No.
But I do like the competitive nature. I only in games. I'm not competitive really in any other way. But I do like competitive because I'm short, so jumping in the air makes me feel empowered. So when I win, it's good.
But I don't play tournaments.
No. Tournaments aren't really my thing, and honestly, I'm probably the most casual of the 3 of us here.
Probably.
If I'm gonna play, it's gonna be because I feel like it, and maybe some cider is involved, or some beer. But honestly, I'm hoping with these things, they released some very interesting looking corn models for this. I'm hoping they're
beautiful.
going to, because I know some of the prices are a little high, guys. I know GW having high prices. No one ever thought of that.
No,
But I'm hoping they could at least justify it a little bit by actually putting some effort into the models, making them look good, giving some love to some armies like the Bretonians who have not received any in a long time.
Well, yes, there were some interesting pictures of some very fleur-de-lis decorated undead. But I would like to make a point on the price thing because my first thought we saw the Stormcast Eternals or
the Stormcast.
Yeah.
basically the big kit that they just put out as separate. The first kits they put out separate from the starter box for the Stormcast. It's like, oh my gosh, it's $200 for 20 mile. Wait a second. I play Tau. I play Farsight Tau. Drones are like, a pop cap. They're not big at all. So I'm basically paying $20 per model for my battle suits, which are approximately the same size. And these are $10 per. I mean, they're big. They're Terminator sized.
And they look
I
pretty
guess this
good
is,
too.
and they're really, really nice. This isn't. If I'm okay with spending the money on 40K, it's not really actually all that different. And I'm going to be playing Skaven anyway. I'm going to get 83 in a box for $12.
Yep, bargain
And a
bin
bit of
prices.
Warpstone.
And honestly, if you're happy with your work, you have a piece for your shelf too. I mean, if you really want with some of these, I mean,
The models are beautiful as GW does. They're not Forge World. You know,
yeah,
GW.
well,
Yeah,
Well,
well,
it's not that big of a difference anymore.
And we were talking about this on the way over here. I mean, Forge World is really designed to be. Those are show pieces for the most part. They're really, really nice because I mean they're rhinos and they're for the most part their game pieces are about the same quality as Games Workshop in terms of how they look. But their show pieces are like awesome.
Yes,
they're really, really good. But yeah, like so. I mean, sorry, I have to make the joke. You're like the Tarask for those Tarask in gaming. You play Necrons, so you really like destroy when you play. So you come out every 100 years, you play a game and destroy somebody, and then you go back to sleep for 100 years.
Yeah.
and I have to say, it's just because of the way I do it. I particularly, if I'm going to do it, I got to be in the mood. I am more interested.
We have to lower the lights. We have to put on some special music.
Like
You
the
know,
candles.
Give some roses.
Cue the Barry White, I know. But
It's Saxman now.
I have to say, though, Age of Sigmar is actually made someone like me more open to want to play more. Because, yeah, it's more casual. It's not a 3 to 4 hour ordeal.
No.
It is, and it's definitely more of, oh, my battle action matters.
Yeah.
I am invested in seeing this narrative play out and not just seeing the sword.
Yeah.
There's actually options in my army without knowing that you're probably going to lose. So, and I can say Sigmar, if they can keep it up, that will definitely, I'll probably break out of my hermit.
I mean,
The Tarask emerges.
and he comes out and destroys us all, goes back to sleep, and then we'll see him later. You play Undead now.
There we go.
The Volks or Two
If you
Kings.
want to fund my Nagash,
Well, that's a nice thing. You can take Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts, and I mean,
yeah.
anything that no longer breathes, you can take.
Yeah.
no.
So
There you go. I mean,
it had to have breathed at one point, though. I guess fish technically breathe. That's right. It's a verb now.
so we're predicting that the next army for the Dead region, since they don't technically breathe, are fishmen.
Blizzard's gonna get involved in
Oh,
putting
no!
Warlock armies?
So I am cautiously optimistic because I wanted so bad to Grognard when this came out.
Oh,
I wanted to Neckbeard really bad and rage because I mean I realize I've always I like going on a lot of forums, but so many of them have just being like GW butt kissing versus GW is like the worst thing ever, but I'm secretly going to buy their model. And really, this kind of falls in the middle. There are good things about it that I'm excited about. Fantasy so badly needed something not a little new, not kind of new, like brand new. As somebody who's played forever and just watched people give it up and give it up and give it up, and something I really, really have loved. It sucked. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited with some of the direction that they've taken it. I'm glad that there's still lots of flavor. I'm glad that there's still lots of opportunity to do neat things. I think there are things to work on here, but I'm cautiously hopeful that if they do release some tournament rules, so that if I wanted to, I could go to a shop and play. I could use these, 4 pages of rules for playing with these schmoes.
Yeah.
But
Which
you know,
will
I that's what I love about 40K, because if these guys are doing something important like working or spending time with loved ones, I can go out to a shop and find somebody to play with, which I couldn't do with fantasy in the last 5 years.
No, you couldn't. You have to. The only fantasy player I know actually who's actually played fantasy. Otherwise, I've heard a lot of talk of people who have left fantasy.
Yeah, exactly, and that is just so discouraging. It's just fantasy, as it was. It's like the little niece or nephew that you love because they're your family, and so you continue to be around them and spend time with them and things like that. But secretly, you kind of detest them a little bit. That's what fantasy had turned into. I was never going to abandon it because it was family. I played that game since I was, I still was, in 8th grade practically. But it's nice to see it grow up and try to be something new and do something, and also just in the environment of just repeat, do the same things over and over. I will at the very least say, okay, cool, you tried something new. Even if it totally tanks, at least you were willing to take a swing.
The things is,
which was so nice because I had just bought received two Island of Blood boxes.
Yeah.
So when they said this, like, no!
Yeah, those were the people were afraid of.
You got a second one?
Yeah, we had gotten one originally from. Oh no, I got half of one from Ryan because Ryan gave me all of his Skaven models. Anyway, didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan. Go ahead.
So the thing is, no model loss. So you've been playing Fantasy for a long time. You don't have to rebuy them. There'll be new models coming out. But just like with anything GW puts out, you can keep using. Rules will be updated for you, and all the rules for the base game are free. Different rules we'll find out, or the campaign books will be at a premium.
But it's so much the same approach. I don't know how many people who, if the 6 people who may end up watching this, will actually end up are also D&D players. But I loved the approach they did with 5th edition D&D that they seem to be doing here. If you want to play a basic game of Dungeons and Dragons, you can do it for free. Spend the money on the dice that you didn't borrow off your friend Phil. Phil. And that seems to be the approach they're taking here. They're likely going to charge GW prices for their campaigns, for their special things, and that's fine. If I wanted to, I could never spend another cent and just use the rules that they've got here. It probably wouldn't be terribly competitive, but I could still continue to play the game that I've loved for 13 years without having to be totally screwed over it. And I like that.
So in all honesty, the campaign books, when looking through, a lot of good stuff in there. They have the campaign rules, they have some scenarios. They also have so much story going on. The story is amazing to read because they have a really good writing staff. I love reading. That's the reason why all people are buying their stuff.
Well, you look at the End Times books, because it's kind of funny. You can see a little bit of the practice they were doing on the main stuff. Because the End Time books were all about that scenarios and the introduction of battalions and things like that. Because, the Verminous battalion was really good. That was so Skaven-y for me. I loved it. You could see them kind of preparing for this sort of thing. So I have a mind to think that this wasn't just a willy-nilly, screw it, we need to do something.
No.
This seems more well thought out than it first appeared. So I'm willing to wait and see what the next couple of months bring. I'm probably not going to buy any models for a little while just to see what happens. But if they can continue in the goodness that they have so far, who knows? We will see.
That sounds good. That sounds right. I'll probably pick up some models just in case this actually falls through completely, because there's some models I want to get just to show. Yes.
I know Potter's afraid for the plague drones. Plague drones are going to go.
Oh no! I know the plague drones will be there. They're in 40k. I'm afraid of the Glock Kit and the Maggot Lords.
Oh yeah,
because those. I heard that they're not going to be selling some of the fantasy models anymore.
Oh no! I'm sure they're going to discontinue lots of them. There's been talk of buybacks, unconfirmed, but talks of buybacks and things like that. They're going to want to put out new models, but you can just hang on to them, and again, it'll just be sort of like a lot of older 40k models. They may not look quite as cool as the new ones. They function just fine.
I still have a beak.
Okay, I have my midget Carnifex.
Yeah.
Back then, God, what, the 3rd edition Carnifex?
You still have that. I thought it went around the group a lot.
Oh, it might have ended up something. I had the ancient Carnifex that was, on the field smaller than a Space Marine.
Yeah. But good game. It's fun to play casually, as from my understanding right now. It's casually, yes, the internet raged about it. Even some people, videos, I've seen at least one video of someone burning their army.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, you should check it out. It's so sad.
Because, seriously, if you don't like something, that's okay and all, but frankly, to the guy who burned his models, your message isn't a lot to GW. They're going to be like, oh, that's amusing, and if they even look at it.
Well, and there are children in first world countries who have to buy those models. You could just give them to them, starving for fantasy entertainment.
They could.
eBay exists.
Yeah, it was just outrageous. So this would be, my personal thoughts to close up kind of how I feel about it is play it with a grain of salt. You're going to play, if you've never played fantasy before, you're probably going to hit some hiccups where somebody is going to come in and punch you in the mouth. Not literally, hopefully. But you can eventually kind of establish this general, if you play with nice people, kind of balance. It's worth playing, at least, with a grain of salt. I wouldn't just totally abandon it at this first blush. Give it a shot and see what you think. Try out a couple of different things, and you may be surprised at some of the fun things that happen and the totally unexpected strategy that comes out of it, because I definitely was not expecting that.
And one thing I like the game, the one thing I want to add is...
Yeah. Yeah.
Objectives would be nice. I think there is some for the sudden death, but I would like some stuff that's not just kill.
You get the impression that's coming up as things go along. They've
Oh,
really implied heavily on that because for once, Games Workshop has decided they would like to reach down from heaven and speak to us.
It's like, hi, we know you exist. You're not just cash cows. We're here.
Yes. We were at a couple of conventions with GW never.
No,
Ever.
Any concluding thoughts, Mr. Veri?
Oh, I do have some. I have to say, before Age of Sigmar, because there's some game stores nearby. Not really. I was pretty much ready to say GW. It was nice. I'm done. And I had my models in a case, and I was just like... Yeah. But then I look at Age of Sigmar, and GW proved to someone like me, who is kind of casual, but... was, I will admit, very daunted to get into fantasy. I looked at it, I was like...
a small game with 100 models.
It's like, that's some awesome stuff, but, I have a life. I have other nerdy hobbies. I can't just throw everything into there as much as we would all like to.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I looked at it, and I have to say, it reinvigorated me. I want to actually find some models. I want to put them together. I love that things like Age of Sigmar are leading to other mediums like Warhammer Total War and other things coming into existence. Fantasy Fantasy got some love with End Times, and I'm happy about it. And to all you old school fans, I know you're looking at me thinking that, oh, what is this casual now? Like, well, casual. As a casual, we're the people that you want to show up and actually invest into this, because then you get what you want later. Yeah. And so I have to say, I'm ready to game on, and hopefully someday, one of these later podcasts, I will have a Glock pin and his Magathords to show you.
And I'm sure we will be playing more games. Probably some with the rules as written, some with some of these. We mentioned earlier we found a couple of good alternative rule sets.
Good ones.
And we can talk more about what exactly it is that's working well and see as things get released.
Find it out. We'll keep everyone included in on what we're doing. We're going to test out as many rules as possible. We might even come up with our own. Who knows? Beings, praise us.
Yes.
Have some tea. Next time.
Lots of tea.
I think we've discussed as much as we can right now until we play more games.
Absolutely. So I think that's probably what you're going to see from us in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we're going to be discussing other Warhammer-related things. We all are very much into 40K. That's probably all three of us really have bigger 40K investment at this point. Yeah. But you'll hear more from us about what exactly is going on. We'll report on new things as they develop as best we can.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this endlessly.
In the Ginger's Kitchen. The Gingin? I think it sounds like a ginger dungeon.
Oh my. Maybe.
But I'm sure we'll be discussing this more as time goes on. This will not be the last that you see of the War Council.
GW goes, and flip table exit room.
Wait, somebody wrote out Slanesh? No! Slanesh!
We didn't realize it was past April. We thought it was April Fool's.
No, but we built all these models. But I think that is probably a good place for us to say adieu.
Adieu, come back later. Hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, right? See you in a couple weeks.
See ya.